I wish we could get that lucky, you know? I
Yeah,
wish.
but you know who's even more lucky?
Oh,
Here's
San Francisco.
Here's a transition for you.
Oh,
the
yeah.
San Francisco
Oh,
49ers.
gosh. All right. Yeah, let's get into this. So, Lions were up at half, 24-7,
That's
and
insane.
gave up, what was it, 27 unanswered, I think? Like, just inexcusable, honestly. For me, yes, absolutely, the Niners got lucky because Detroit couldn't put the game away. But again, it falls on Detroit. Detroit couldn't put the game away.
Yeah.
I mean, let's look at this just logically here. The Lions were up 24-7 at half, and Goff still finished the game with 41 passing attempts. That should have been closer to 30 than 40. Like, especially with the running attack that they've got, I was disappointed. I was very disappointed. But I will also say, Jahmyr Gibbs was not the best statistically in this game. 12 carries, 45 yards, 3.8 per carry. But David Montgomery statistically looked great. 15 carries, 93 yards, 6.2. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, this comes down to two things for why the Niners won. And quite frankly, none of it had to do with the Niners. The Lions secondary, which I highlighted as a big issue. I said that this game I thought was going to be close, but I can't trust the Lions secondary, so I gave the Niners the win. And their secondary completely crumpled. They were terrible down the stretch. And then their offense just stagnated. Like, they got 24 points in the first half and got 7 in the second. You know, like, when you have a secondary as bad as theirs, you got to get to like 35 points, which they were capable of, and they didn't do it. So, you know, at the end of the day, I think the Niners were the more well-rounded team. But I mean, we were talking about this before we went on air. Like, I could see this Browns team beating the Niners in the Super Bowl. Like, I'm expecting the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl because I'm just not high on this Niners team at all. I think that they've got a ton of talent, and it's clearly like what propelled them to get to this point. But I think they got a lot of players that are. I think they got a lot of players that are a bit overrated, if I'm being honest here. Their offensive weapons less so. I mean, Kittle, I do think is one of the best tight ends in football. Juszczyk, obviously one of the best fullbacks.
See, I think
CMC.
Kittle's a bit overrated. I'm not gonna lie.
Really?
Yeah.
I think that Kittle, where I think he propels himself into that discussion, is receiving the football. Yeah, he's not really like up there with the elites, but he is a hell of a blocker. He's a killer of a blocker, and we give David Njoku a lot of credit for that. And I'm not saying that this is what you're doing, but I feel as though my opinion of David Njoku, it would be linear, or, you know, it wouldn't be consistent. Yes, thank you. A consistent approach to the tight end position if I wasn't giving Kittle that same leeway. So, because of the blocking game. But, I mean, Brock Purdy, I don't trust against Kansas City, their defense. I think Cam Newton summed it up really well. I think he's a great I think he's a good game manager. I don't think that he's this quarterback that's going to go out and single-handedly win you a football game. I think both times that he has come from behind, it is because the other team's offenses have completely stagnated, and I mean, he's just hit his open throws. I mean, they got the luckiest play I've seen in quite a while. He chucks a ball deep down the field that's supposed to be an interception, bounces off the guy's face, bobbles up into the air, and Ayuk comes down with it. I mean, again, I wish we could get that luck. Like imagine being down in a football game, and that's the play that like kickstarts it for you. You know, like just I don't know. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I am not so high on this Niners team. And I think the Lions should have won it, but they stumbled. They stumbled over their own feet. It's a shame because I was rooting for them. Dude. Derek, I've done a lot of babbling about this game. Let's push it on to you, Derek. The final score ended up being 34-31, by the way. We didn't really get to that part, I don't think. But Derek, what were your thoughts on this game?
Oh, well, first of all, I was so proud of Detroit. I was so proud of Detroit. And you know what? Not to shift gears, but when I wasn't at my grandparents' growing up, I was at the YMCA. And I don't know if anybody else has been, like, in the YMCA daycare or whatever. But before my mom would come pick me up, there was this guy, which I feel horrible that I can't remember his name. But this older guy who would sit there and talk with me, you know, when I was waiting. And he was a Lions fan through and through. Die hard. Like, always talked about the good old days of Detroit and, you know, what that team was. Similar to how we... You know, a big portion of this fan base talked about the Browns, right? Of how this team used to be great, right? And the whole time, man, I was like, and I this sucks to say, unfortunately, but he passed away, so he's no longer with us. But the whole time I was thinking, I was like, man, if he could just see this, if he could just see his team and what they are doing right now. To a Niners team that is stacked. Like, just how proud he would be. And I thought that way with all Detroit fans. Like, man, this team had no business being this good, right? They were talented, but they had no business being in the NFC Championship. Like, playoffs, that's a different discussion. But they were really outstanding this season. And I was so proud of them. They come out and they just right downfield. I think it was 3 plays, touchdown to Jamison Williams to open the game. And it's like from there on out, I was sitting there and I was like, man, I can't believe the Detroit Lions are about to be in the Super Bowl. Like, I am so happy for them. And, you know, it just absolutely fell apart within the span of like 3 to 4 minutes. And I feel so bad for Lions fans. And I told my mom, I was like, if that was the Browns, I said, nobody'd be talking to me for a month. I said, you wouldn't catch me talking to a single soul because I would just be internally just fuming for a long time.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and especially like what happened to the Falcons against the Patriots in the Super Bowl, 28-3, obviously. I'm not even kidding you. I probably would, like, I would be in a shell for a long time. Like, I'm scared of what would happen if this team, like, let me down in a situation like that, of how I would react. Because, like, I'd be so sad, and I feel so bad for Lions fans. I'm with you.
I know, dude. And that's the worst part is, like, it was literally, like, clockwork. Like, the lines are up 24-7 going into halftime, and literally within, like, what? I don't know, 4 or 5 minutes out of halftime, all of a sudden, it's like 21-27 or whatever it was. It doesn't matter. But it was like, you got to be kidding me, man. And listen, I don't want to ramble on this too much, but I love Dan Campbell. I absolutely love Dan Campbell. He is top 5, maybe top 3 my favorite coaches in the league. Like, seriously. Everything that he stands for, the way that he got that team to rally around him, the way the media was treating him like a joke, and he said, I don't care. I'm coming into Detroit. I'm turning this around, and I'm going to do it our way. I love that. I love that so much, and I have so much respect, and I admire Dan Campbell, and I think he's a great person. I think he is a great coach, and I'm excited for the future of Detroit. Now, with that being said, unfortunately, I think it is fair to say he is a huge part of the blame for this, because 2 instances where the Lions could have kicked chip shot field goals that would have at least tied the game, right, when you look at the final score. If you made both of them, you would have won. But hindsight's 2020. But in those moments, I understand going for one of them, right, to just put the final stamp on the game. But the second one, at that point where it's like, hey, this is a game again, you take the points. Like, you absolutely take the points. And you gamble, and sometimes you hit, and sometimes you lose. And unfortunately, there's no undo button, and you can't go back and fix the mistake. And for Dan Campbell, you know, unfortunately, he's going to get a huge part of the blame, and, you know, unfortunately, he deserves it. But I absolutely would not say that he is a liability or anything like that with the Lions. I think he's an unbelievable head coach.